we got to talk about some news that has been dropping because, again, transfer window's coming up. It's going to be closed very soon. There's still some movement that has happened. We want to chat about that. And clubs are making some moves, making some announcements, let's just say. So there is a team that is home to Washington, to see the Washington Spirit. We're going to transition a little bit to some news that came out of the Washington Spirit franchise here. They announced amidst the slew of United States women's national team's news drops because the official September friendly roster for the friendlies against Nigeria dropped on Monday. And in between all that, the Spirit went ahead and sent out an 11-worded tweet saying that head coach Kris Ward has been relieved of his duties as head coach. And that was all she wrote. Farewell.
Yeah, full stop on that one. This is insane. An 11-word tweet. That's all that the club put out up until this point of our recording, Tuesday early afternoon. There still has not been word. The league has not put out a statement yet. There really hasn't been anything. And I mean, there's so many different layers to kind of dissect about this conversation, about this. Washington is 1-9-6 this season. They're sitting in 11th place. They're only ahead of Gotham FC at this point in the standings. They've really, really struggled. It's a 15-game streak of no wins. They won their first game in the regular season, and that's been it. So they've been on a bit of a struggle bus. They've also had a lot of games in quick succession at the start of this season. And the fact that Kris Ward is now out of this role maybe isn't incredibly surprising, but how it happened to me is just shocking because of this single sentence tweet that came out and no other comments about it. No why. There is no press release from the club. There's nothing coming out from the league at this point. And that's what's just truly shocking to me. Even if it's just, hey, this was a mutual agreement. It's based on performance. This is it. Like, hey, he's going to go with 6 games left in the season. I think that the fans deserve to know that just based on everything we went through in the league last year with coaches coming out about this. But this is a coach in Kris Ward that joined the Spirit years ago as an analytics and player performance development coach. Last August, he was named the acting head coach after former Richie Burke was dismissed and fired from his role as head coach. And Ward led Washington Spirit to the club's first ever NWSL Championship in 2021. Yeah. Then in December, he was hired on as the full-time coach. And now towards the end of August, they say goodbye to him. And he is, quote, relieved of his duties as head coach. Did this shock you, Sandra?
I don't know if the firing of a coach who has had a pretty abysmal record is shocking. I think what was most shocking about it, again, was just sort of the announcement of it. And it's just sort of like the perception around that is just, there's, for lack of a better word, it's just weird to me. If it's a combination of something where it's like, hey, they've had an abysmal record this year. They haven't had a win in forever. They're in second to last place. And even just being second to last place, they've mostly been the bottom half of the table for the entirety of the regular season. If it's, and then something like that, if it leads to perhaps maybe losing a little bit of the locker room a little bit, if it's a combination of all those things, that's of course understandable. You're going to have those conversations with your head coach and probably reach that conclusion. But
I mean, look what happened. The announcement of it. Look what happened at Gotham. It was, hey, we've reached an agreement. We're not winning.
To back.
Yeah.
It's like, coach, it's like, here's the coaches who have been, having a difficult time this season. And now those conversations are obviously being had. But, even with that, like I said, it's like the sort of sharing of the information or the revealing of the news is what sort of throws me off a little bit. I think even with all of those combined things, right? The poor record, the questionable performances, the possibility that at this point in the season he may have lost the locker room, all of those above points. I think this is still the head coach that ultimately was on the sidelines that like helped lead the team to their 2021 NWSL Championship. How you don't say like a, hey, thanks, Kris, I think is kind of like curious, but that also, because of that also leads to more unfortunate speculative things. And I think one of the things you want to do, if there are no type of speculative things there, like one of the things you want to do as a club is try to make sure that you get in front of those things and go ahead and have the dismissal as clear and concrete as possible. And the fact that there are also reporters who have confirmed that the Spirit don't intend to have any additional comment is very curious. So it leads to other folks, back to where we were in 2021, where a lot of folks were making and drawing their own conclusions on things due to the way information was sort of placed out around certain dismissals or terminations or firings of head coaches in 2021. So to sort of go from Gotham FC putting out a number of statements and talking around their mutual separation and dismissal of Scott Parkinson, and sort of having statements from their GM, their VP, and then now their former head coach, but not really having a news release about it is still kind of questionable for me. And then the Spirit kind of having nothing around it, with the exception of an 11-word tweet, is very questionable to me. But I'm not someone who's in those front offices or part of those comms departments or making those decisions. So I think in the meantime, people's curiosity is fixated on those points, and they're also fixated on the fact that when you don't have the appropriate dissemination of information, people are going to keep asking those questions. So folks are like, well, who's going to be running the trainings, or who's going to be, is there going to be an interim in place? Like, what is this going to mean? So I think a lot of folks were curious if Angela Salem was going to be someone who's going to be running point on things. Because she got named as an assistant coach with this coaching staff as well, got brought into the fold. And in the interview that we had with her, said that she had these conversations with Kris Ward specifically to come in to be part of the coaching staff. So in the meantime, I guess that's the next news drop that has to come for this franchise, is who's going to be the interim in the meantime.
Yeah. And there's been rumblings that Angela Salem will be leading the practices for Washington Spirit this week, or until there's an interim head coach announced, but also rumblings that Mark Kerkorian, the club's president of soccer ops, and he's a former NCAA coach, he's won a lot of titles, he will also be one to step in and guide this team through the end of the year. But there's been nothing. These are all rumblings from reporters, great reporters doing the groundwork in Washington to figure out what's happening, but there's been nothing from the club. So speculation, I guess, at this point.
Well, we'll see. We'll have to stay tuned, right? When we get more information, we'll share that information. That's sort of how it works, unfortunately, sometimes in this league.